Raise your hand if you have ever been personally victimized by a situationship. I have. And I know many of you have, or maybe you're in a toxic relationship or dynamic and you don't even know what it is, but you want to leave and you don't know how to leave and you don't know if you should leave. And what if they're better for the next person? What if they're, suddenly sort all their shit out? Not going to happen, by the way. But this episode is really for anyone who might currently be in a situation and is contemplating leaving, or maybe you've just left a situationship and you're like, you know what the fuck was that? I need some context. This is for you. Now, in this episode, we have a lot to get through. Don't mind me. I actually have a notebook about it because I had no intention of filming this podcast episode today, but I literally was in bed last night until 2 a.m. and I just kept getting ideas for it and I just kept writing them down. And I haven't really prepped this very well, but I was like, you know what? I need to get this out just for some sanity in my own goddamn mind. So just to start off super quickly, I also have experience of being stuck in a situationship. For those that don't know what a situationship is, you're in a relationship, but the other person won't define it, because if they don't define it, then they don't have to be responsible or accountable for their actions, and they want to keep their options open, or they're afraid of committing, or whatever it might be. It doesn't really matter, but it's a very painful experience because you basically have all these parts that resemble a relationship and make you and your body and your nervous system and your brain feel really good, but then this person kind of is forever dangling whether or not there's this emotional safety for you to fully lean in to that experience. So I just want to give you guys some context. With today, I'm going to talk a lot about why situationships kind of struggle end, I guess, and why we struggle to leave them. Now, this is not shame. Like I said, I was in a situationship for over a year. It was terrible. I constantly thought that if I left, he was suddenly going to figure all this shit out and just pick the next girl and they would live happily ever after. Plot twist, didn't happen. Got in another situationship. Shame on him. Two, I think that the longer it went on, the more I was emotionally invested. So the more I had to prove to people around me that all the pain was suddenly worth it. So I'm going to talk about the experiences that we often have, and some you might be aware of, some you might not be aware about. I hate labels and I hate projecting things onto people, but my intention behind doing this is to give you guys context and understanding. When we can name something and when we can label it and when we can see our experience, it does help us actually kind of process and intellectualize that experience. So it's not about saying like, you're bad because you won't leave. Like, babe, I get it. I totally get it. I really did a number on myself trying to stay in a situation I shouldn't have. And then I'm going to go on and talk about leaving. Now, if you have left, you might want to skip ahead to that part. However, if you are wanting to leave, this is really important, because the one thing that I am very grateful for about my situationship is that it actually set me up on the deepest journey to see where I was still prisoner of my own past, if that makes sense. And it helped me when I realized and I learned how to do all of this, all these different things that I could work through. And that really pushed me from anxious attachment. I actually went to avoidant. I said that in last week's episode. So I actually went from very extreme anxious attachment to avoidant attachment, because I was like, I'm not letting any man make me feel that way again. And then I actually had to spend years undoing that as well. So don't do that. But it did set me up to work through a lot of my stuff, I think is my point. So let's talk about limerence. If you don't know what limerence is, this is generally what is most common in situationships. Limerence is a psychological state. Actually, I wrote this down. Let me say it so that we all get the same definition, okay? Limerence is a psychological state of intense romantic infatuation. It's constantly thinking, craving their validation, feeling euphoric when they respond, and shattered when they don't. It's an obsessive replaying of different situations, reading over text, and really, riding those highs and lows. It's rooted in unmet attachment needs, particularly for those who are anxious or avoidant. Particularly childhood wounds, particularly abandonment, unworthiness, and unpredictability. So if we grew up with a very unpredictable household, not in a way that maybe it was violent, but in terms of like, will I get love? Will I not get love? And you couldn't figure out your caregiver's needs, then you kind of can be more susceptible to this state of limerence. And really, ultimately, how I like to describe it to clients and other people is that limerence really is falling in love with someone's potential. It's not love. It's a total nervous system shit kick to the teeth. Like, it is just, you are here, then here, then here, and here, and here, and here. And we're going to talk about this when we talk about leaving. But it really does a number on you. And we very much confuse when we're here with love, because we're flooded. We've got the oxytocin back, and now it feels even better because we had a period where it was here and it was withdrawn, and now it feels amazing. And it's like, babe, that's not them. That's your own brain, because you have those chemicals in it after it being withdrawn. And I know that that's a very simplified way of saying it, and there's a lot more cognitive stuff that kind of goes into it, which we're going to discuss. But at its root, when we look at what those neurochemicals can do in that experience, it's a shitstorm, and it creates a lot of havoc in our lives and our nervous system. As I mentioned, a really common experience is kind of staying in this place, hoping to be chosen. Often it kind of starts with limerence. Often it kind of starts with this person being emotionally unavailable. And this emotionally unavailable stoic nature that's a little bit mysterious is really emotional unavailability. And then eventually they don't want to commit, and we kind of stay thinking that maybe they'll see us long enough or be around us and see how wonderful we are and change their mind. But emotional availability isn't, I have this, but I'm not giving it to you. Emotional unavailability is, I can't go there with you because I can't go there within myself. So I don't have the emotional depth and capacity to look at my own emotions, never alone look at them and be able to present them to you. And I think that really helps people when they're thinking that this person is just going to go off and find this amazing, incredible, secure, happy relationship and live happily ever after. Like, no, this person is deeply flawed, and the reason they're keeping you in this situation isn't because they're a mean monster, even though it might certainly feel like that when you've been doing it for a long time with them and they're not giving it to you. It's because they emotionally are just confused and they don't understand their own internal space, and that doesn't warrant their behavior and it doesn't justify their behavior, but it's like they have so much of their own shit that they need to deal with. There's no space for us there. So we kind of end up in this state where we want to be like chosen, I guess, and we think if we're patient enough or we're kind enough or if we do enough or we prove enough, which often stems from our childhood wounds of feeling like love is conditional, or that we have to earn love, or be the good girl, or be the right man, and then this person will suddenly give us what we crave. But that doesn't happen. And then as time goes on, and particularly when we start to communicate this experience maybe to friends or family, we can kind of get a little bit embarrassed. And this is a very common thing. I don't have any research on this. This is just from myself, from my clients, and from my friends, and really being in the field that I see is that people kind of end up in a bit of a shame spiral. And it's almost like they stop kind of communicating to their friends what's happening because they don't want them to see how bad it might be, but also because they want the person to pick them, because they want to show to their friends like, look, it was all worth it, and to themselves really, but like, look, it was all worth it, all that pain was okay because I got my happily ever after. But often what people don't realize is that we're kind of repeating a story from the past. What I mean by that is, I'll use my own example. For me, I was confusing that stoic, it wasn't genuine stoic, that stoic, mysterious man as, oh, okay, this guy is so cool. Like, look at him, he's so masculine, and like, but really he was emotionally unavailable and cold. And by me chasing that and wanting them to go there with me and give me that love and give me that attention and affection, this was not conscious. I didn't realize this till years later. It took me even years, even knowing about this, to accept that that was my reality, that I was trying to not even complete a pattern with that person. I was trying to complete a pattern of my past, and I was trying to resolve a lot of childhood wounds that I had to finally make that loop complete. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's really, really fascinating because obviously I am a holistic counselor, which means I work with somatically with the body and like trauma stored in the body. When we have experiences that are outside of our window of tolerance or that are really painful, e.g. emotional abandonment as a child, it creates like an imprint in our nervous system and it stays there until we complete the loop. Crazy, right? But it's our body's natural survival instinct of being like, that was a really dangerous situation. Low-key thought you might have been really hurt or dying. So instead, what I've done is made you remember it so that you do not do that again because that was really painful. So we need to kind of complete that loop. And if we're not aware of that, then we will continue and just go from situationship to situationship to situationship and not really learn from it. So how do we complete the fucking loop? Because we can't obviously do it with them. Obviously, I'm going to talk about that a little bit further on when I talk about leaving. But I do just want to add in for now a really big thing. I know that some people listen to this and they're like just not on board with it whatsoever, but I jump up and down and I say it all the time, and it's saying that I'm trained in is doing your somatic work. So if you are willing to go and work with someone who does like breath work or body work or, somatic experiencing, and you learn to work with the nervous system, kind of like trauma stored in the nervous system, this will really freaking help you kind of get outside and witness that pattern. I hope I'm making sense. This actually brings me to the next point very well. We confuse intensity with safety, and that's what helps keep us stuck in these situations. Like I said, these are pretty well layered on from anyone who experienced emotional abandonment. And if you are listening to this and I didn't experience emotional abandonment. Both my parents stayed together. It was great. I had a nice childhood. Emotional abandonment does not mean you were just physically abandoned and like left at the shops by yourself. Emotional abandonment might have been like you really needed love and affection for someone to love and support you and witness your emotional state, but instead you were told like, that's bad, go to your room. And it becomes like this unable to process our own emotions, and then we're in our room crying by ourselves and we feel like it's too much. We're children. We don't know how to regulate our nervous system yet. We need our adult parents to teach us how to do that. And if they don't, then we end up feeling emotionally abandoned. And while we might not cognitively remember that experience, our body does, and our subconscious. So when we have this very like emotionally abandoned childhood, or maybe we had a lot of unpredictability with people's needs, or even you might be able to say to me like, yeah, my childhood was a bit effed up. And then you can see where it was kind of rooted in chaos and stress and people pleasing and caregiving and all of these things that we know are very dysregulating for the nervous system. We end up staying in these situationships because they actually feel familiar. This is the tricky thing with this. And I was actually talking to a client the other day about this. We kind of all know what that statement means. Like we confuse intensity with calm, but the nuance of it is really difficult because consciously you are going to go, I don't want this. This is shit. I don't want to be this dysregulated. I don't want to be going through this in my relationships. I don't want this unpredictability. I want something more stable. I want something more loving. I want something more caring. Like, I don't understand. That's not me. I don't want that. Your nervous system and what you desire are two very different things. If your nervous system has not experienced the safety of being in the calm, in the present, and you're constantly dysregulated, it doesn't know what you're desiring feels like. So it's going to go back to what it does know, if that makes sense. So how do we work through that? How do we start to teach the body safety? This is like where people get really like, at me, because it's like we don't realize how much we build emotional safety and self-trust and self-worth in our relationships until we do the little things. The little things are what are going to save you, and you will be shocked at how much your self-trust will grow if you just turn up when you say you're going to turn up. If you just do the thing when you say you're going to do the thing. And that doesn't mean being disciplined and ignoring your body's needs. It's actually the opposite. If my body is dysregulated because I'm stressed at work and I am now turning up and regulating it and being very kind to it, I'm teaching my body that it's safe, that I'm the kind of primary caregiver looking after my body. Hopefully that makes sense, because that was a bit of a rant. But I really want you guys to understand that maybe on a conscious level, you're like, I'm not sure about that. But I want you guys to look at how you're operating on a day-to-day basis. Are you rushing through the world and life and, trying to speed eat, and, you're always in a hurry to get somewhere, and it's really hard for you to sit in a room by yourself and just color or do a puzzle? Like, does that seem like very confusing to you? And if you're not sure, go do it and see what your body does. If you go do that and then you're like, oh my God, I want to, pick up my phone and I want to get out of here, and I need to talk to someone, I need to do this, and that's a very key sign that you have a nervous system that is not trained to feel safe. Because when we talk about a nervous system feeling safe, we're talking about it being able to be in the present moment and be okay. Now, these are obviously a few examples of what can keep us stuck. So we've kind of got completing childhood loops, we've got confusing limerence with love, we've got unmet childhood needs, we've got, feeling like we have to make this all worth it to ourselves and to others, which I guarantee if you left them, no one is going to judge you. All your friends are going to be very happy for you and very, very proud of you. Mine were. These are obviously just kind of a few of the most common ones that I see, but I want to kind of shift this conversation now into talking about leaving, because there's also a lot of shame around leaving and why haven't I left yet, and I knew better. And this is what's really important. You're not weak because you haven't left yet or it took you a long time to leave. Like I said, your nervous system, if it only knows chaos, doesn't know familiarity, so it's going to stay in the chaotic place even though it knows it's not good for you. It takes time when we are in situationships to kind of go through this cycle of, I like this person, oh, they don't want to be together, maybe I can show them that I'm worth this and they're going to change their mind, and then we kind of, everything seems good. Oh, look, we're basically acting like we're in a relationship. The conversation comes up again, oh, I'm not interested. Then there's a break, and then we come back together and we mend, and it's like this cycle that goes like this, and we genuinely have to go through that cycle like a couple of times until we kind of reach what I call a threshold. And a threshold we can hit multiple times, and usually it's in that state of that person not committing to us, but it's like when we're in that threshold state, this hurts too much, I want different, this sucks, rah, rah, rah. But unless we ultimately kind of soften our ego and go, okay, maybe this person isn't just a dick, maybe I'm also playing a part here. Maybe I also need to find what is the part of me that is staying and work on that. Unless we kind of choose that in that window, then we kind of go back through the loop again, and it can be like another 4, 5, 6 months until we're back there again. So it's not weak for wanting to leave. There's times when it feels good and you feel like you genuinely might be getting somewhere with this person and you might feel closer and it feels nice, and it's hard to leave that, because particularly when that person has become a source of comfort, it's hard to let that go. And it's hard particularly when you have memories together, and it's hard when you've formed a bond with this person. And if you're not seeing other people as well, there's this safety within them in those good moments. Now, it is particularly hard to leave if we do not have strong family connections. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people say like, oh, just leave. But when people don't have strong family connections, there's a lot of internal self-limiting beliefs around the idea of, I have to do this all on my own, it's up to me. And they're not just self-limiting beliefs really, because you do actually feel like you have to do the holidays alone, you have to do most things alone. There's no one there to catch you if you fall. And that sometimes feeling like you have somebody is better than feeling like you have nobody. But the reality is that somebody is preventing you from having somebody who can turn up for you in a way that you actually deserve. That's the kind of like the catch-22, because it's like you're leaving out this incredibly wonderful experience because you are emotionally so involved with this person that even if a healthy, happy person who cared about you walked into this room right now, you would probably turn it down because you wouldn't even be looking at it, because your nervous system is so wired and so invested in this other experience. And particularly when there's limerence, where it's like we're very addicted to this person. It can be like, but no one is as good as this person. I guarantee you, by the time you leave, you'll be like 6 months later, you'll be like, this guy, what was that about? I know that that's particularly how I felt and feel about my situationship. And I know that people probably say I should, forgive and forget. But I honestly, still to this day, am angry and I'm pissed off at what that person put me through. And that's not from a place of not getting over it. Like, I've definitely gotten over it. I've definitely moved on with my life. But I sometimes feel like that it's great that I'm angry about it, because it shows me like how much I've grown to be like, I didn't deserve that. What was that? Was so cruel and unfair. And you kept me dangling by a carrot that you had no intention to ever fulfill except for your own boredom and your own relationship needs. So as I mentioned, we need to hit a threshold. We need to eventually get to a place where we go, you know what? I'm done being treated like this. I'm done feeling like this. I need to finally choose myself in this situation. And when you do that, what I can say, it will be one of the most rewarding things you ever do. And it actually will help to rewire a lot of patterns within you internally, because you finally chose yourself. And it doesn't seem like that, because it feels like a very hard experience to do. And particularly when we leave relationships, particularly when we leave situationships, it does feel very hard, because a lot of past unprocessed trauma around, not even trauma, but like past situations that aren't processed properly, what a fucking tongue twister that was, will come up as well. So it kind of feels like emotionally like there's a lot coming up. But I guarantee you that if they start to come up and we start to kind of sit with them and process them, and I don't mean process them as in ruminate on them, I mean process them as in like allow ourselves like, okay, where in my body do I feel that emotion? What would that emotion say to me? Okay, it might say, 5-year-old me is so pissed off because of this, and and whatever it is, and working through it and journaling about it and doing our somatic, shaking it out and regulating, you are going to just grow and change so much as a individual that meeting that threshold and making that choice will ultimately be one of the best decisions of your life. Now, like I mentioned, the longer we stay, the kind of worse it gets. One, in the sense of we have this limerence, we think they're amazing, and then they don't want to be with us, and then no, we're kind of hooking up again, we're kind of going back here, and then so now we're going like high oxytocin, high dopamine, withdrawal, back, withdrawal. So every time that valley is just growing deeper and deeper, and it becomes almost like an addict. It almost becomes like withdrawals, maybe not so physically shaking withdrawals, but definitely withdrawals of going through that time where now you have to teach your body that isn't coming, that pick me up is not coming. So what can I do instead? So if you're planning on leaving, this is what I recommend to help you with the withdrawal kind of state. Number 1, work on self-trust. So doing the things like, when you're stressed, how do you turn up for yourself? Okay, I'm really sad about this experience. What do I need right now? I need to go for a walk. I need to, go to the gym. I need to, lay in bed for a day and cry and watch TV. Like whatever it is, like giving yourself that opportunity without distracting and leading to like doom scrolling or drinking, because those things are only going to make that hurt longer in the long term. But actually really like processing that kind of stuff. Alternatively, we need to get our needs met. And if we can do that in a healthy way, that's amazing. So that's obviously through like the simple things that we all know, like our nervous system regulation, our exercise, like I just mentioned. But also then the best thing I ever did was go out into the community. So I actually went and found like this community that did like dips, and I made a lot of new friends who wanted to do activities together, and I put myself out there. There's like all these things popping up now where it's like you can basically go on your own and meet new people and meet new friends. And I know that it's really hard to leave situationships even when your friends are all kind of like married or they're in relationships, and it's like, oh, but I don't have anyone to hang out with. So putting yourself out there and going and picking up new hobbies and picking up new interests and meeting those needs externally are going to all help with that withdrawal process, because I am so grateful for that community that I met, because I literally ended my situationship and then I went as a reel for Jar to go to a solo one of these nights past tonight, and I ended up making friends with a girl that ran it, and then she introduced me to some other people. She told me to come to Dips, so I came to Dips, and then from Dips I went to Dips is like cold water ocean exposure in Melbourne. And then I went to making friends with these people, and we all formed a big group chat, and we were all chatting, and we were all like putting ourselves out there. And like, if I wanted to go see a movie, then I had people to go see a movie with. And it really just helped me not feel alone or isolated in my experience. And maybe if that's not available to you, and you know that you need oxytocin, and you know that you need these other forms of easing yourself through these withdrawals, cuddle your pet. Go hang out with a friend. You don't have to meet 100 new people, but you can go and just start to go, okay, like, what is going to give me a fulfilled life? What is going to make my relationship with myself amazing? Because this is what I mean by it set me up to become very securely attached and genuinely love my life, is because I met those people from that community. I took up hobbies. I learned to surf. I learned to skateboard. I went and did all these things on my own. And I created this really intense relationship with myself where I was constantly dating myself. I would take myself to the park to read a book. I would take myself to the beach. I would do all of these things that I wanted to do. And then when I was dating, like, I had such a different caliber of men that I was dating. And that's not even because, like, you know, suddenly all of these men appeared out of the woodworks. Like, many of them I just originally wasn't giving a chance because they weren't that stoic, mysterious guy who was actually emotionally unavailable. They were actually genuine people that I was like, oh, my nervous system doesn't know how to hold that, so my brain's going to say that you're an idiot or a loser or whatever it made up. So that basically concludes today's episode. I'm sorry that it was a little bit unhinged, but like I said, this is 1 a.m. I couldn't sleep thoughts that I just wanted to pop into a basic podcast. So hopefully now we know there's no judgment on why you're struggling to leave. If you feel the shame, process the shame, whatever you need to do to help support yourself through that experience. Hopefully I've given you guys some insights to maybe start to think of, like, not just like, what is this, but why am I in this? Like, what is this serving in me? What part of me needs something right now from this dynamic? And really start to not just leave the situation or move on from the situation, depending where you're at, but actually work through that so we don't repeat it. Until we make the unconscious conscious, we're prisoners of the past. So yeah, hopefully that gives you some insight and some knowledge and some context and understanding. And just remember that you're going to feel a little bit withdrawy, but the more you can build on your tools of working with your nervous system and processing what's kind of stored in your body, as well as going and putting yourself in fun, new, exciting environments and creating a life that really is going to be fulfilling, however that looks to you, the better. Anyway, I do apologize once again, as I do feel like this was very unhinged, and Kitten has been walking in and out of this all day, but I'm really enjoying the long form content and I hope you guys are too. If you have a second, please do like, share, follow. I have a lot of followers on Instagram and TikTok, and this channel is very, very new, but it's honestly the place that I'm feeling the happiest right now, and I would love to continue to grow it, and to do that requires your love and support. So thank you and have a wonderful day.